two rookies I am avoiding in my rookie drafts, my dynasty startups, wherever you can technically acquire them. I don't want them on my team for this year, okay? And before we get into it, okay, I know people in the comments are going to say and feel some type of way and disagree. Be nice, please. I have feelings too. But before I get into my take, I want everyone to stop, pause, and comment your two guesses of who are my must-avoid rookies going into this year. And let's get straight into it. All right, before I get into my take here, I'm going to be telling you who the player is at the end of the take. What I want to do is bring my points first. And some of these points may be a bit obvious, okay? But I want to bring my points first and see if some of these things could potentially change your mind as I'm going throughout this take, all right? So my first point for my player, first rookie to avoid, is quarterback play. This quarterback is obviously going to his second year, and there are concerns, right? Whether it's in the fantasy community or myself, there are concerns his ability to produce fantasy relevant wide receivers, because we didn't see too much of that because of his injury. Second is really, can he stay healthy? And I know this may be a little bit of a stretch because he is quote unquote a rookie quarterback, but are these injuries going to be a concern moving forward? He had a concussion, he had a joint issue this past year. Can he protect himself as a passer and as a rusher? I'm not necessarily sure. Three, the next point is his ability to progress as a passer. You know, he struggled in college as a passer alone, and he was limited with his limited play. We saw a 59.5 completion percentage in 2023. There was glimpses of good plays, no doubt about it. I'll give him that. There's some really good upside with this quarterback, but the overthrown, underthrown passes, mistimed throws, can he clean that up going into 2024? Maybe he can, maybe he cannot. My second reason why I am truly concerned about this rookie really, and why I'm not drafting him in my rookie drafts, is because there's already an established wide receiver one on this team. A wide receiver one that demands targets. Now, I'm not going to show you who this player is, but I can show you the stats. Look at these numbers and what he has been putting up these past couple of years, right? I'm not averaging, but 150 targets this past year, 139 targets, right? I mean, the guy demands targets for the past 3 years. In 2020, that was his rookie year with 66 targets. Not only that, he signs a long-term contract. This wide receiver is averaging over 14 points per game on a week-to-week basis, and he is the wide receiver one. Okay. My third issue with this rookie is that he is already locked in to a wide receiver 2 role with limited upside. Now, he could easily surpass that, no doubt about it. But that means he has to surpass the wide receiver one on his current team. Okay, so that's a big step. Not only does he have to break out, but he has to surpass the established wide receiver one. Okay, so I'm not saying that can't happen. He can be the wide receiver 1B on this team. But in my opinion, it looks very discouraging with all the hurdles he already has to jump. Because we have seen these wide receiver 2s in the league try to surpass maybe their number one, or a new number one comes in, and look how their upside is limited. And let me tell you, I brought some wide receiver 2s who we all love in the league, but look where their value is currently in the community. And a lot of these guys, the difference with a lot of these guys, I'll tell you. My first wide receiver, Devonta Smith, wide receiver 16 currently in the community. Who does he have in front of him? A.J. Brown. Obviously, some talents are different. T. Higgins, wide receiver 23. Ahead of him, Jamar Chase. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 15. He is the highest ranked wide receiver 2 in this class. Or not in this class, but in this take that I'm bringing. Who's ahead of him? Tyreek Hill. And then the most recent rookie wide receiver that just came into another wide receiver 1, Jordan Addison as wide receiver 22. What do all these wide receivers have in common outside of Jordan Addison? Is their quarterback play. Devonta Smith with Jalen Hurts. Long-term contract extension. He took this team to a Super Bowl. I mean, Jalen Hurts can produce fantasy relevant wide receivers. T. Higgins, another quarterback that went to the Super Bowl on a consistent basis, not to Super Bowl specifically, but on a consistent basis can produce fantasy relevant wide receivers, 2 elite quarterbacks already. Jalen Waddle, 2 is a little bit of a different tier, But he may not be elite, but he's an established quarterback in this league who I believe is going to get a contract extension, who can easily produce fantasy relevant wide receivers like we've seen in Tyreek Hill as essentially the wide receiver 2 this past year if he didn't miss those 1 or 2 games. And then Jordan Addison, obviously that was Kirk Cousins, now is J.J. McCarthy. So that's a little bit of a different thought process. I'm saying with the wide receiver 1 that is already established on this team, the highest upside, which we have already seen, the highest player that has finished in this one has been all these guys has been Jalen Waddle. He's finished as a top 10 wide receiver when Tyreek Hill wasn't on the team. Devonta Smith has finished as the top 12 wide receiver with his wide receiver 1. But once again, the difference is the quarterback play. So this rookie really career fantasy projection is dependent on its quarterback. And I'll go straight into it and I'll tell you who this rookie is Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell is someone I am going to be avoiding in our rookie drafts. And let me tell you why. Currently, AD is going around the 205 to the 208 range in our rookie drafts. I went to go look back, and that was kind of the range he was going in our real rookie drafts that we have with our followers. Your league may be different. Your league may be even higher. Look, here's my most recent rookie draft. Adonai Mitchell goes to the 205. He was at, somebody actually moved up to acquire Adonai Mitchell, okay? Obviously, you saw me take Lamar McConkey here. Players I would take ahead of Adonai Mitchell, Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Michael Penix, Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk, okay, Ricky Pearsall. All those guys I'm taking ahead of him, and he went ahead of 3 of the players that I'm bringing you here today, or I've just mentioned here today. I'm not saying Adonai Mitchell is a phenomenal talent because in our pre-draft process, I loved him. I love what he was going to be doing in the NFL if he was going to go to the Bills, if he was going to go to the Chargers, if he was going to go to a place that didn't have an established wide receiver 1 and didn't have the question marks in quarterback in Anthony Richardson. Now, a lot of people saying, well, you're kind of discrediting Anthony Richardson. I'm not. I think he's going to be phenomenal for fantasy for him alone, but can he produce fantasy relevant wide receiver? That's why a lot of people are iffy about Michael Pittman Jr., but you're really confident in Adonai Mitchell. Look, I think the talent is there for Adonai Mitchell, but once again, let's just say Anthony Richardson does become one of these quarterbacks. Look at where his peak value is most likely going to be. It's most likely to be between the wide receiver 15, and that's even if he breaks out himself. So Adonai Mitchell is my first rookie that I'm going to be avoiding. All right, going into my next player here, a player that I'm going to tell you the name off the rip, okay? A guy that I actually think is hilarious after all this media outburst has been happening and all the interviews, and that probably gave it away already, and that is Keon Coleman. I didn't love him coming out of college, and there are more concerns with Keon Coleman going into the next level. And for me, it's just somebody that I want to be avoiding. And let me tell you why. Let's start off with this offensive coordinator, right? Ken Dorsey was the offensive coordinator for the Bills, and then now it's Joe Brady. They fired Ken Dorsey in Week 10 against that Denver Broncos game after they lost, right, on that Sunday night game, if I'm not mistaken. And then Joe Brady comes in. And what happens to this offense? It becomes more of a spread offense. When I say spread offense, I mean he's spreading the ball around. He's not targeting one elite player in quote-unquote Stephon Diggs. And I think that's where a lot of people think that what's going to happen with Keon Coleman. Well, Keon Coleman is going to get 140 targets, Stephon Diggs left behind. I don't think that's the case. Why? Because if you look at Stephon Diggs and his production in the second half of the season when Joe Brady came on, look at from after Week 10, Stephon Diggs only scored 2 double-digit fantasy points. And he was completely, I would say, irrelevant for fantasy. In Week 12, 19.4 fantasy points per game, or in that game. Then you don't see another double-digit fantasy point until Week 18 with 15.7. What do we see? We see the ball get spread out a little bit more to Shakira, to Dalton Kincaid, to Dawson Knox, to James Cook, and the list kind of goes on. Keon Coleman is not here to take over Stephon Diggs' targets, right? I actually believe Stephon Diggs is more of a Gabe Davis than a Stephon Diggs here. And I kind of bring, the similarities when I think of Gabe Davis and Keon Coleman. Right? Look how similar this is. The height 6'2" versus 6'3". Weight, very similar. Arm length, very similar. 40-yard dash, Keon Coleman was actually slower than Gabe Davis. 10-yard split, similar. Vertical jump, Keon Coleman has, right? And the vert, Keon Coleman has, right? All that is there. Very similar combine performance. The difference is the draft capital. Keon Coleman was an early second-round pick. Gabe Davis was a fourth-round pick. The hit rates are there for a day 2 wide receiver versus a day 4. A round 2 wide receiver versus round 4 wide receivers. I'm not comparing the player. I'm comparing the way Joe Brady wants to potentially utilize him. And that's how I'm envisioning Keon Coleman in this offense. He's more of the Gabe Davis replacement. And what did we see from Gabe Davis? Not too much success outside of that playoff stint. And he was going to be a top 24 guy, and that just wasn't the case here. Here are a couple things that I said in the rookie scouting report. And, Zach and myself put our 2 minds together when we think of the rookie scouting report and where that was potentially going to be looking around and what people are going to be seeing when we thought about Keon Coleman. Because remember, coming out early in the offseason, Keon Coleman was a top 5 wide receiver. Then he fell into the second round of the NFL draft, right? What's really good about Keon Coleman is his jump ball capability. He's 100% a one-on-one opportunity. You should be throwing him the ball, and he is going to go up and get it. He is a guy that is phenomenal when you think of going up for that one-on-one type of contextual catches, aka Gabe Davis going down deep, getting that big ball, right? Broke out at the age of 19. 26.8 of his team's receptions offense at Michigan in 2022, which is awesome. Now, the downside is the route running. What was so good about Stephon Diggs? His separation, his elite route running. His route running is not there as a wide receiver for Keon Coleman. He's not as fluid. He's not as smooth. He doesn't get the separation on the line of scrimmage. He does not have it. His routes are rounded off, doesn't have the suddenness, the twitchiness as a top route running wide receiver in the league. It's just not there when it comes down to it. And that's what is a little bit concerning here. But there are a couple lights at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to bring in the good and the bad. The light at the end of the tunnel is that there's significant quarterback play in Josh Allen. And that was one of the things that, I know a lot, Zach was been saying, like, hey, the light at the end of the tunnel is that if he goes to a good landing spot with a good quarterback, Keon Coleman could potentially be something. I think Josh Allen, yes, could easily make him fantasy relevant, but is he going to make him a top 5, top 10 wide receiver? I don't think so, the way people are kind of projecting him, right? I think there's not too much talent around him, even though I like Shakira, and I love Dalton Kincaid. He's my breakout player this year. He's actually going to be my guy. There's not too much depth in that wide receiver room specifically. You have Curtis Samuel now that they brought in. Keon Coleman can easily surpass them. But what's interesting, once again, Joe Brady is going to be spreading that ball around. So is he going to be Stephon Diggs, 140 targets? No, you have to lower your expectations. And I agree with Zach. He's just more of a Kenny Golladay fantasy production type of monster. So he's not going to be, 10 plus targets per game or 7 plus targets per game. I think he's going to be more of a Gabe Davis type role, right? He gets 4 to 5 targets. He has 2 bomb catches and a touchdown. Maybe that's what you want. But you also have to look at his college career where Coleman never surpassed those targets either. He's never surpassed 100 targets and 800 yards in his career in Michigan and in Florida State. He's more of a big body, go up and contest catch type wide receiver like a Kenny Golladay. Now, can he take his talents to the next level, maybe like Kenny did? Can he take his talents with a quarterback like Josh Allen coming into the 2024 season or at all in his career? I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying this year at his value. And going back to the India League, look at the India League. Look where he went at the 202 in our India League. Once again, I'm taking Trey Benson, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk, Michael Penix all over Keon Coleman. A lot of you guys may disagree. Comment down below. Be nice. Let's have a conversation. Keon Coleman, Adonai Mitchell, 2 rookies I'm going to be avoiding going into the 2024 season. Guys, as always, It's all love.
Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.